Right, are we in?
I believe so.
Are we in? Can anyone hear me? Hi there, guys. Welcome to the live stream tonight. I am joined by Chris of Toys of the Jedi. Say hello, Chris.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the live stream.
Right, I just want to start by welcoming everybody to tonight's live stream. I hope that everybody is well, keeping safe out there. We do want to just quickly touch on, obviously, the events that are happening in the world right now. It's obviously a pretty difficult world at the moment, quite difficult to understand what everything's going on and everything. But I hope everyone out there is safe and kind of respecting what they're supposed to be doing, etc. And that's what we're doing here. So we're doing a live stream, and so I just want to make sure everyone out there is safe and well.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything to say on the events, Chris? How are things your end?
I think it's one of those where, like you say, following the guidance. I'm no expert on viruses, so it's following the experts' advice. If you want Star Wars expertise, then I can help with that, but I'm still not perfect. But the actual the other bits and pieces that are going on in the world at the moment, it is just like you say, trying to be respectful to each other, helping each other out where possible, and following the advice. It is one of those. It's a complete change to the way of life at the moment. But
crazy situation indeed. And we just hope that tonight's live stream will be maybe a little break away from the madness that's going on outside, and let's talk a bit of Star Wars and talk about things we love. And we're going to talk about Star Wars in general to start with, because I haven't spoken to Chris for quite a while, so I want his sort of take on the recent Rise of Skywalker and the Mandalorian and things like that. And then obviously after that, we're going to be coming on to sort of what's happening with the world of action figures and Star Wars, what happened at Toy Fair, and what's upcoming this year, and what we're all going to be sort of looking forward to in the future. So first of all, Chris, obviously, as I mentioned, I haven't spoken to you for a while. It has been a while. So Rise of Skywalker, what was your sort of first take? How many times have you seen it, and what's your sort of first take on it?
I've seen it twice now, both times in the cinema, obviously, and I really enjoyed it. 100 miles an hour. I think it could have done with a little bit of extra time, and you hear all sorts of bits and pieces that there was a longer cut available, the JJ cuts and all this. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I mean, it's no secret to anybody that knows me, I wasn't a fan of The Last Jedi. So for me, it kind of fixed a lot of the things that were in that. I appreciate there are people out there that absolutely love The Last Jedi, and that's entirely up to them. That's their thing. But I did enjoy it. I thought there was some good action scenes in it, some great characters and great outfits that would make great figures. It was really good film. I did enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to getting the Blu-ray when that comes out. How about yourself?
Complete the set, haven't you?
Exactly.
I'm the same as you, really. I think probably everyone that knows me on this channel knows I'm not the greatest fan of The Last Jedi, and I wouldn't say that the film kind of fixed things for me. I think, I don't know, it kind of was what I was expecting it to be. Basically, I did feel that The Last Jedi didn't really leave too much for anyone to pick up and do with anything with, really. And I think going back to the original trilogy was something that was pretty inevitable when it was back in JJ's hands. So the fact Palpatine was back and everything, I wouldn't say I knew that was going to happen, but I wasn't surprised, put it that way. But yeah, so, as you mentioned, it's 100 miles an hour, wasn't it? It was, mind you, I have seen it 3 times now, and the time that I have watched it most recently, it did feel a little bit more slower paced, if you know what I mean. Because obviously you've seen it, and you're not trying to look for the bits that you've missed and whatever. You're kind of used to that film now, and As I say, I didn't really notice it going 100 miles an hour the third or fourth time I watched it. So in that
Yeah.
respect, it got a bit better for me. But my kids loved it. So, I think obviously Star Wars, predominantly the films anyway, are aimed at kids. So as long as they enjoyed it, that's all right. What about The Mandalorian?
For me, The Mandalorian has been the bright spot in Star Wars for a little while. Loved Solo, loved Rogue One, really enjoyed The Force Awakens before that. But The Mandalorian has been something else. Really something to sink your teeth into, and interesting to see that it's more than just Star Wars fans that have been talking about it. I think the fact that it was episodic and you could do like a good half an hour or 35 minutes, depending on whatever the director felt was necessary for that episode. I thought they all stood well on their own. None of them particularly dragged, which was nice. And a good through line throughout the entire season so far. So yeah, very very much looking forward to some more of that. And again, I'm quite hopeful that they actually do a full on Blu-ray set with some behind the scenes stuff, because
Yeah.
the stuff that Favreau and Filoni have done, the little snippets that you do see leaking out have been great. So yeah, absolutely desperate to get more of that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was just, it was really in tune with the original trilogy, and I'm a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and that's what I've grown up with. And I mean, I do like the prequels as well, don't get me wrong. I did like the prequels, and the prequels for me felt like Star Wars. And I think that's the point for me, is that the Mandalorian really just feels, they've just got that nailed. It feels like Star Wars when I'm watching it, and all the little Easter eggs in there, little tiny things that I've noticed, which obviously Favreau's made sure he's put in there. Is there's so many things in there. I mean, it's countless, really, the amount of Easter eggs there are. But I'm not going to name them all now. But when you watch that show, there's so many little things, and obviously we've had the troop transport recently. So when that rocked up in the show, I was like, yes, here we go. This is Star Wars, even though it wasn't that wasn't in the original trilogy.
No, but it definitely had that feel to it, didn't
Yeah.
it? It was properly ingrained in that OT era, even though it's set 10 years later.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I absolutely loved it. And of course, there's some interesting stuff. I could see Cameron at the top there. Will Samuel L. Jackson be playing Ahsoka in season 2? I don't think it's quite Samuel L. Jackson that's playing Ahsoka. But yeah, it's what's her name? Rosario Dawson, isn't it? Who's stepping in apparently to be to play Ahsoka. Is I don't know about yourself. I do like Ahsoka as a character. Didn't when she initially showed up. I think it's fair to say. The Snips and Sky Guy stuff was not my cup of tea, but
Yeah.
grew into a fantastic character. Did you watch much of the Clone Wars when that
Yeah,
was
yeah,
around?
I've seen it all. I've only seen it like all the way through once, and I've watched the new ones as they've come out.
Yeah, it's been good stuff, and a cracking character as she went along.
Yeah.
Really interesting as it went through Rebels as well, to see her brought into that. So I'm looking forward to see where they go with that character in the Mandalorian.
But
Could be
the thing is that I heard is that the shooting for season 2 was wrapped up. So I mean, that announcement sort of came out of the blue for me. I thought, well, if they finished it, what's happening with that then? Maybe they're doing extra bits, or maybe that news source was wrong or something. But I literally 2 weeks ago, maybe I thought I saw that it had been wrapped up. But
potentially, but just in case anyone hasn't seen The Mandalorian yet, brief spoiler here. Obviously, they managed to keep Baby Yoda, the child, completely under wraps until it actually broadcast.
yeah,
He's everywhere now, so I don't see how anyone could be have stayed spoiler free on that one. But if they manage to keep something as big as that under wraps, it wouldn't surprise me that they've got this far without someone as big as Ahsoka appearing
yeah.
in the show, without that leaking out. So yeah, fingers crossed. I'd be open to that, definitely.
Yeah, I just see their DIY. It's Star Wars dioramas. He's just said there, check my channel for my Razor Crest. So you should follow him on Instagram. He's making a scaled Razor Crest, and it is pretty awesome. I've checked out his pictures. He sends me regular pictures. He's even got a little house for Queel and what have you. It really is impressive stuff. So anyone out there, guys, if you're listening, DIY SW dioramas on Instagram, well worth following.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay, so that's the Mandalorian kind of covered. I mean, anything else you want to say about the Mandalorian? Apart from it being absolutely awesome.
Apart from it being fantastic, no, it's. I'm just hoping that Hasbro are allowed to sink their teeth into it a bit more, because we've not had a huge amount yet. I'm sure we'll get onto that in a bit. But yeah, I'm just hopeful that they do really go to town with it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm sure they will. I mean, at the end of the day, it's everybody knows how much of a great success it's been. I'm sure they're aware. We're talking when I was in New York at Toy Fair, we were talking about it then, and they are, you know, most certainly aware of how successful it's been. It's just I don't really know what's going on there. They need to get the finger out and just give some more figures from it, really. But obviously, they've got other lines or sort of other media to fulfill as well, so it's a bit difficult for them. And I do realise that, you know. But we'll come on to some figures and the state of that in a minute. So some other news that we had was that Mark Boudreau was leaving. And obviously, if anyone's watching, he was responsible for many of the toys that we played with as kids and some of the more recent toys as well. So most notably, my favorite toy, the Millennium Falcon, the vintage Millennium Falcon, which is officially the greatest toy ever made ever. So that's a bit of a shame.
It is, and I mean, he obviously went on and did every Millennium Falcon since. He had a hand in designing right through the Legacy big Millennium Falcon, and I think he even did the one for Solo as well, which wasn't as good as the Legacy one, granted, but working to that particular direction as they were going for at that time. But the Legacy Millennium Falcon is absolutely stunning beast as well. And it, much like you say, the Kenner original Falcon was best toy of certainly of your child, if not longer. The Legacy one, I think, really upped the level when that came out in 2008.
Without a doubt, and there's obviously quite strong rumours that it's going to be released again this year, perhaps in the vintage line again. So we're not, you know, that's not 100%, but that's kind of the gist of what I was hearing from the same source as the Slave One, which actually came true, which was nice. So Slave One as well, that's obviously a good one for me because I missed that the first time around. So I'm definitely going to be getting my hands on that. So yeah, we might as well move on to figures and stuff as we're talking about Hasbro and Millennium Falcons and what have you. So first of all, Toy Fair. Now, I went all the way there, and I've got to admit it was a slight letdown. It was fantastic being there. There's amazing things shown off, like the things that aren't Star Wars, like the real Ghostbusters line and things like that. Loads of Marvel figures if you're into Marvel. But unfortunately, a lot of the Star Wars stuff that was revealed had been leaked. So it was a bit of an anticlimax. I think if a lot of it hadn't have been leaked, then it would have looked like a better show, you know, because they would have had the retro collection. They would have had the couple of vintage collection figures, and they would have had some of the Black Series stuff. But it was all leaked beforehand. So yeah, that's right. It's the 40th anniversary stuff, wasn't it? Of all those figures, all leaked.
Yeah.
Just all ahead of time. Basically. And I could see the disappointment on Patrick's face, who's the main dude at in the sort of fan channel of Hasbro Star Wars. A lot of people would have seen him interviewed on various videos and stuff before. You could see the disappointment on his face that, you know, essentially everything had been leaked already. So that was a bit of a shame. But I'm predominantly a 3.75-inch collector, so I am a little bit disappointed about what has actually been officially revealed, but at the same time, I do kind of know what is coming as well, and there's a lot to be excited about that is coming. It's just we don't know what it is yet, and we haven't seen it.
It's I think it's a bit of an odd one because we did have one of the shows just before that where they really revealed a load of stuff for the 3.75, a lot of the vintage collection stuff, and not a lot of Black Series. So it's kind of a bit of you get some, now it's your turn, and then throw each of them a bone as long as it goes along. And the other bit, of course, is they've got actually a lot of different shows that they try and reveal stuff at now. It was quite good last year, I found, when they did they went to the Paris Comic-Con, they went to London, and they revealed a little bit at each of one of those. Even if it was just only one or two things, there was still something new for those that were in attendance, which was good. I think a lot of us are still living in the mindset of what it was like in 2005, where they just drop a load of stuff on you, and it'll be, well, come back next month, there'll be a ton more.
Yeah. Those days are gone, aren't they?
Oh, long gone. So I think somebody worked out we're only getting, is it 12 vintage collection figures that are like new ones in the year?
Yeah.
It's next to nothing. It's next
I know.
to nothing. But I suppose that's possibly just the state of collecting at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the announcement of the Gonk droid was a pleasing one for me because it shows that they're still looking after the fans, the original fans. You know, that's one of the ones that's missing from the original Star Wars card. So, and I'm pretty sure that it will come out on that Star Wars card.
I would hope so. I mean, they were doing a lot of talking about the completing the original 96, weren't they? They actually made I think Patrick was quoted as saying, we want to complete the original 96. So
yeah,
they haven't forgotten that.
This card here, I'm just sharing the screen now. This card here, I'd be shocked if it wasn't on that card with the pink. Obviously, there's the vintage collection one there, and it's, they've put the pink background behind it. That's got to be a clue that it's going to be that card back. Surely.
I'd hope so. It is one of the real classics of the original Keller Run, because it is just so vibrant and pink compared to a lot of the other stuff that was released. I think the FX7 droid as well had a really funky sort of background to it. Was it stars on the back of that one? I can't remember off the top of my head, but
the medical droid from the Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, FX7 had a quite a funky background as well. It was, like you say, one of the classic ones. So I do hope they stick with that when they do finally reveal the card art for that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of my all-time favourites, so I really do hope they do. I'm sure they will. I mean, it's the vintage collection, isn't it? That's the whole kind of point behind it, in my opinion.
It is. They've still made some rather odd decisions with some of the card backs previously. So you just hope that they're paying attention and doing it right. This is the old one. Just do this.
Yeah,
and it should be as simple as that.
Yeah,
but,
and of course the other one that was revealed was the Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight. But it's a repack from that Jedi Destiny 3 pack, which is fair enough from my point of view. It's when that 3 pack came out, I think it's pretty obvious that those 3 figures would eventually, be on single cards, and it's about time they got that Jedi Knight correct on the correct card back. And I've got that figure loose, obviously, from the 3 pack, and it is the best Luke Jedi Knight by a million miles. Such a great figure. So good one to have on that original Jedi card back. Now there is a rumor. There's some rumors going around. I think I did a video about it, about Amazon listed the figures that are going to be accompanying those 2 figures in the 2 waves. So, we're apparently going to be getting an airborne trooper, and I'm wondering whether that's going to be the one from was it the 30th anniversary? I think it was the orange.
I imagine so.
The orange and white one, or maybe it'll be from the blue one. I think there's a blue one as well, blue and white. But I would say, do you think we'll get a new figure for it? But I doubt we will.
I wouldn't have thought so. And am I right in thinking if they do any deco changes that they class that as a fully new figure?
I don't
as it
know.
were.
I don't know. I did see somebody. I can't remember who it was. I think it's Bantha Skull did an interview with them on their. They got the text of the conversation they were having with them. I think it was from a Google Hangout, and they were talking about what is classified as a new figure or a repack or a reissue with new paint deco. And I don't know if I really fully understood it, to be honest. But I don't know. I don't know if you can. It depends, doesn't it? It depends what they do with the figure.
Absolutely. I mean, it's a cool looking trooper, and they have done some of the other, is it 212th Battalion within the vintage collection, the orange markings. So it would make sense for that one to come again. But at the same time, maybe you want to fill out the 501st Legion or one of the other millions of color schemes that are out there.
I'll take either, to be honest.
See how it goes.
I'm biased towards the 501st, though, I must admit, but I would take either.
Yeah.
Isaac Villa has just said, do you think we'll get a Finn from episode 9 for the vintage collection? Do you want to take that one, Chris?
It's an odd one. I actually quite liked the outfit he wore. It was something quite different. The trouble is that I think historically the Finn figures haven't sold as well as they would like, which is a real shame. And I think part of it was that the Last Jedi outfit was very similar to the one from The Force Awakens. The Force Awakens one wasn't that exciting. It was a black all-in-one with a jacket, and that was about it. That was all that was to it. But this one actually had quite a different look to it. So I would hope they would. I imagine we will at some point.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that's going to be immediately.
We got that Black Series one, didn't we? The 3.75 inch from The Force Awakens. And that actually isn't a bad figure, but I think it'd be a wasted slot at the moment in the vintage collection, considering if you're saying that we're only be getting, I don't know, 30 figures in the year and 12 of them are new. They've only got a certain amount of slots, so I wouldn't personally, if it is me, I wouldn't want Finn to take up one of those slots just yet. I realise there is lots of characters that we do need from the new trilogy, particularly the Rise of Skywalker. But I can't help but thinking it'd be a wasted slot. I'd rather have the one that he's just mentioned there, a General Pride. If it is me, they're the sorts of characters that I want. A General Pride. You know, if you're talking about Rogue One, we need a Krennic, and you know, we could go on forever from that film, couldn't you?
Absolutely, and I mean that's exactly it. There are still so many other characters that we don't have 3.75 inch representations of at all. Dryden Voss, General Merrick, all sorts from various different films as you go down the line. I mean, Holdo, not my favorite character, but you don't have a Holdo figure for your collection at all. So I would prioritize those figures over a new Finn at the moment, but we'll see. Like I say, at some point in the future, I imagine they will get to him. When is a very different question.
Well, two of the figures that were rumored again in these new waves were ones from Rogue One. I think one of them was Chirrut Emwe, which was I'm really, really pleased about. That's definitely the sort of character that I want to see on a vintage card. And what's the other one?
I mean, Imwe needs the super articulation.
Yeah.
The sort of movements that he does in the film, you need to be able to get that dynamic movement and poses out of your figures. The 5 POA doesn't quite give you that. So yeah, he absolutely perfect candidate for a vintage collection figure.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think what the other Rogue One was now. I've completely lost that in my head.
Just seeing Chris Curran's comment in there. No one Holdo.
I'm with you, Chris, mate. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I do not want a Holdo figure. It's not on my want list.
No, same here. But she's a character we don't have in the line. And again, it goes back to what we were used to.
Delvian Seeks just put, there you go. The droid, K2SO, there you go. Yes. So yeah, again, one that we've had in 5 POA that, you know, but I think putting them in the vintage collection does two things. One, you get the figure in the super articulated figure, which is obviously what we need for both those characters, but also for me, you get that vintage card as well. And, you know, for me, that's half the aesthetic of the vintage collection. A lot of people keep on the cards. I like to do that. And both of those characters, I can just picture the card backs right now. They're going to look really good.
Absolutely. So long as they get a still from the movie, they're going to look brilliant.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the Photoshop stuff that they've done on some of the cards. But yeah, as long as it's still from the movie, absolutely look fantastic. So yeah.
I think what tends to happen with those stills is that it tends to be, well, I might be imagining this, but it tends to be the ones that are the early figures in the line, because basically they don't have too much to work on. Basically, they're given stills, they're given this, that, and the other. So the one that really sticks out is the Han Solo for Solo, the young Han Solo.
Yes.
That's possibly the worst looking card in terms of Photoshop.
Yeah.
But I think they had that so early in production. Whereas if we got Solo figures now, I think then they'd probably use proper stills from films and things like that. Well, at least I hope they would.
I'd hope so, but they also gave us that Han Solo in Stormtrooper outfit, which there are tons of still images of.
That's a damn good point. That was a bad choice. Choice of image. Yeah. I don't know what they're trying to do there. Sometimes I think that they're trying to make it look old and grainy because it's for the vintage collection, and they're trying to do that. But I don't know. I'd much rather have a. I don't know if you've seen the most recent John Tyler Christopher action figure variant cover. He's just done Han Solo Stormtrooper, and that image of it. I mean, it's a drawing, but it looks 10 times better than the card back that we've got. It look amazing. David L, thank you, mate, for the super chat. Thank you very much. Love these live streams. How do you feel about repacks of rare figures, i.e., the tail enders of the 2008-9 Legacy Collection? Yeah, 100%. There is a few that I would love repacked in any packaging. It doesn't have to be the vintage collection for me, because there's figures that I desperately need from those lines which I didn't get. That costs an absolute bomb. I mean, I think I mentioned them quite a few times, but you're looking at the Nikto Gunner, you're looking at Jiran. I'm thinking of Cal Fass from the Cantina.
Yeah, all top of my list as well, mate.
Which I would. Oh God,
we see, for me, those are prime candidates that you put in the like we got the Jabba's Palace playset, and you got a Han Solo and a reuse with it. Stick a Herchuk Kalfas in with a Cantina playset, perfect. It's absolutely the sort of thing that should go in there. I'd love to see them tackle that. I still want to see them tackle more of the Jabba's Palace stuff. I mean, if you've got a Rancor gate with Giran, for example,
you need the Rancor keeper then, don't you?
You do, absolutely, and he's one of the ones from the original Legacy. 96. So
exactly,
great figure. Stick him on a vintage card in that box. It's common sense stuff that I hope they get round to. I really do. Absolutely great question, David. I mean, are there any others outside of that you particularly need to get released again?
Well, the Rancor keeper for a start. He's in that Legacy collection. I mean, what's his name? Malakili or something like that. I'm old school. I go by Squid Head. I go by Hammerhead or whatever.
What was on the Kenner card back?
Yeah. So to me, he's the Rancor keeper. That's just another one, we need. And it's a bit weird because obviously the whole sail barge thing enabled them to bring out lots of Return of the Jedi stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the 40th anniversary of the Return of the Jedi is in 2-3 years time.
Yep.
So I really hope that we don't have to wait that long to get the other bits that we need, like Bib Fortuna, the Rancor keeper, Jiran, things like that. I really don't hope that we have to wait that long, because they've got lots of other stuff to do in the meantime. I realise that they've got more Mandalorian figures to make, Clone Wars figures to make, probably. So I really don't want to have to wait that long to get those important figures,
I do know what you mean. I've a horrible feeling we will have to wait that long, though. Just because, like we said earlier, there's just so much stuff out there that we need to get to that they can't just say, right, well, all you Empire Strikes Back fans and Last Jedi fans, you're not getting anything for 3 years because we need to give you all the stuff from Return of the Jedi. We may get the odd one here and there. Just quickly back on, sorry, David's point. Oh God, I'm going to butcher this. Kirk. I think it was one of the Jedi characters, Jaina and Jason Solo, which was the last.
They go for a bomb. They go for a bomb now.
I think they were Toys R Us exclusives. They're not figures that I'm particularly looking for.
No.
Again, my focus is the OT, but you're absolutely right. They do go for a huge amount on the secondary market. It's whether there is enough demand for those figures to be released, and that's going to be the bottom line for Hasbro. If they don't see the demand and enough people shouting about those particular characters online, they're not going to approach them again.
Yeah, it's not like they look at the secondary market and go, cool, those figures are going for an absolute bomb. Maybe we should help out all the collectors out there and re-release them. You know, they're saying that they're doing that with the vintage collection figures. Some of the ones they've re-released, like Boba Fett and what have you. You know, the Clone Trooper that's just come out, VC 45, I think it is. You know, they're saying they're doing that for that reason, but it's about getting new collectors back into the line and just saying, here's some of the sort of more popular figures or whatever. But you know, going back to characters that essentially aren't canon, you know, I think that's a stretch too far in my opinion.
It's
good figure, though, no doubt.
Absolutely, and I think it's like you say, because a lot of the canon has been swept away. It is really going to take a lot of lobbying to get those producers figures all redone as figures. I mean, obviously Revan being the major exception, and Jaina in the flight suit outfit in the Black Series, sort of really the only two that we've had from expanded universe made since the Disney takeover.
Yeah.
So we'll have to. Like I say, it is going to take a big fan push and an organised fan push as well, to get everybody together to say, right, this is the figure we want re-released.
Yeah, Cheggy Chonks has said, I think Hasbro just needs to release repacks in a line slightly different to the vintage collection, similar to the old Saga Legends, and that way they can focus on the main vintage collection for all new figures, basically. That's a potential idea. I mean, that would mean that they've got to make new figures for potentially old characters or older figures that they've already brought out that we still need in the vintage collection. Do you know what I mean? So, as we mentioned, that there is perfectly good figures out there which could just be repacked, but they need to be on that vintage card.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean? It's I think some of the danger is that in the past Hasbro have gone down. The Saga Legends was a great line for getting older figures out there again, and I think that was great in a time where lots of people were still buying action figures. With things moving towards the 6-inch scale of things, a lot of kids' attention going towards computer games. I think it's proven as well that if Hasbro have too many lines on the shelf, people are just picking and choosing. Well, I'll have that one from there, rather than going, I'm going to collect this whole wave of everything. I don't know that there are too many completists out there anymore. So where possible, throwing even those good classic figures, like you say, onto a vintage card and getting them out there again, it's a sensible approach, because it gives those collectors that didn't get them the first time around a chance to get them again. It gives new collectors a chance to get them at a reasonable price. And if they're characters that appeared on the original 96, absolutely, we want them all on the vintage card back. So definitely for me.
Nick, only one Kenobi. How are you, mate? I hope you're well. I know you've just moved house. I think it was yesterday. Did you get the keys? So congratulations on that. He's actually asked you a question, Chris. Where have you been on Instagram? Missing an action. Where have you been? Real answer? Or God, I'll let you have it.
It's a little bit of real life getting in the way. It's something that I will probably cover in a lot more detail at some point in the future. But yeah, like I say, real life gave me a bit of a beating, so I had to step back from the fun stuff that I'm doing here now. I enjoy this, but had to put other things first, and then go again once things had calmed down. So yeah, I'm fine. I'm alive, as you can see. I'm still here and healthy. So yes, thank you very much. But we'll see if we go back onto Instagram or not. But thanks, Nick, and yeah, good to hear from you.
Talking about real life events, and obviously with everything that's going on at the moment, what do you think the whole CV? I don't want to say the word out loud because YouTube might punish me for pretending to be a doctor or something. What do you think the whole CV thing is going to have an effect on in terms of collecting? I don't know whether it's because some things have been cancelled, like Echo that we go to. For all those people watching, Echo Live is a event that we go to twice a year, where basically 50 odd tables of vintage Star Wars are for sale, and it's just the greatest thing ever, basically. And there's a bit of modern there as well for the people that like modern figures. But I've noticed that on the Facebook groups of those, like the selling groups, that there's a lot of stuff available because they're trying to shift the stuff that they were going to be taking to Echo. But I'm not sure if there's as many buyers because people are a bit scared, aren't they? They want to sort of keep hold of their money. They're sort of, do I buy this now? It's, for £200 or whatever for this thing that I've been after for ages and ages, because I don't really know what's going to happen in 2 months' time, if I still have my job, if I'm allowed out of the house, that kind of stuff. So what do you think? Do you think it's going to, and also, supply lines and manufacturing and stuff like that? Do you think, new figures do you think there's going to be a problem there potentially?
Well, there's obviously a lot going on. Everybody's experiencing the current circumstances in one way or another. There's no getting away from it. I think, yeah, a lot of people are being a bit more cautious, because that if you spend that £200 on something now, like you say, 2 months down the road, you find yourself in a spot of bother and have to sell it quickly, and you can only recoup 150 of that. And that's an extra 50 quid that you really could have done with in your pocket. It's concerning times. So yeah, I am expecting to see a bit of a slowdown on collecting as people just batten down the hatches, make sure that they are able to live, like you say, real life. We do this as a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to give us a bit of a break from everything else. So I think people will kind of just go, right, let's just play it a little bit sensible for a little while. I mean, for those of us who are fortunate enough for money to be no object, yeah, it's a great time to be picking up the bargains, I'm sure. But at the same time, I think you do need to really focus a bit more on what matters to you at the moment. On that side of things.
I know it's a bit difficult to say it, but I think there are more important things happening at the moment, and as you say, this is a hobby. We're doing it for fun. I'm hoping everybody that is watching is finding this a good break from the stark reality of what's happening in this crazy world at the moment. It is it is worrying times, but as we mentioned at the start of the stream, we just hope everyone out there is staying safe and everything, and keep collecting. But I think everyone just needs to be a bit sensible, really. David L, thank you very much, mate. Thank you for the super chats. I really, really do appreciate it, and hope to see you again in the future, mate. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. Yeah, just to quickly touch back on that sort of stuff. I think while it is obviously a bit more restrictive on what you can do at the moment, it's also a chance for you to actually get to grips with your collection again. Maybe have a look at the way you display it. Play with your toys, take them out into the back garden, take some photos, stick them on Instagram, all this sort of stuff. That actually go and enjoy your collection. This is a bit of it's I don't want to say see it as a positive, because it's not. But take the opportunity to really, if you've got that downtime where instead of just watching us all day, much as I'm glad that you're all here, take the time to go offline, do some stuff with your collection, enjoy your collection. You've spent the time, you spent the money on it already. Go and enjoy it.
Yeah, here.
Just once we've finished this, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely going to be. I mean, I for people that don't really know me personally, I mean, I do have a day job. Obviously, YouTube doesn't pay me any money at all, really. I do have a day job, and my day job is affected by this. I'm now having to work from home. Working from home sucks. It sounds like it's good and enjoyable and what have you, but I've also got 2 kids who are now off school. My other half is a teacher, so she still needs to be at school to teach the kids of the important people in this country, of nurses and doctors and delivery drivers and all those key people. So now my kids are going to be essentially in the house while I've got to try and work with them here. So it's a bit of a juggling act. So I don't really know what I'm trying to say, but I'm just saying that things are difficult at the moment. And as you said, Chris, when you're in your downtime, I'm going to sort out my Star Wars room. I'm going to redecorate it. I'm going to get rid of the moisture problem I've got growing in the corner of it. I'm going to sort all that out. I'm going to make it look really nice and sort out my collection, and then do the much asked for collection room video, which everyone keeps asking me about in every comment of every video I make. When are you going to do a collection room? And I will do it, I promise. But it's just time to do it. But maybe now I will have the time, as you say, to enjoy the collection, sort out the room. I know Nick has got a new house. He'll be most definitely sorting out a Star Wars man cave in his new house. And so I think that's a good advice, Chris, for everyone to sort of enjoy their collection and look at what they've got and just be pleased with it,
Good.
Right, so we can talk Black Series as well. It's not just vintage collection on this channel. I do like a bit of Black Series as well. So obviously at Toy Fair we had the 40th anniversary figures announced. The one I'm particularly looking most forward to is definitely the Hoth Rebel Trooper. I think they've done a fantastic job with that, with the double faces and everything. That's the sort of thing I think they need to do more of in that Black Series, considering the price tag for those figures. And in terms of the 40th anniversary, the Luke Snowspeeder card, I'm liking the look of that.
It's I think it's obviously a great companion piece to go with the Snowspeeder that's coming as well. I do like the look of that. I picked up the Black Series X-Wing Luke not too long ago with the improved face printing. And love that version. So I think that might be one that I pick up as well. The Snowspeeder.
Did he have the face deco on the archive line figure?
That's the one. Yes. Yeah. They did an improved face printing on that, and it's night and day different to the very first. And granted, the first one was 2013, I think, when they first came out.
He was number 1, wasn't he?
He might well have been. But it's night and day difference between the two figures. Looking forward to that one. But you're right, the one that steals the show is that Hoth Rebel Trooper for me. Really clever bits of ingenuity to do the face swap. And you can have the scarf down or up, and there's like, I don't know how many, like 9 different combinations or something like that you can have. Someone worked it out, but that, to me, that's the sort of thing that they should be doing with all those Black Series figures, because they're 20 quid or whatever, or $20. I know they're a bit of plastic and whatever, but what I've heard is that they actually cost pretty much the same as a 3.75 to make. So if you're going to be paying that extra for them, that you should be getting something extra out of them, in my opinion. Absolutely. And the fact that it's an army build, you should definitely be getting that. I think the comparison is something like your SH Figure Arts, where you do get the alternative heads that you can just swap on and off with those. obviously you paid quite a premium for that. So whether I'm only a partial Black Series collector. I see what's coming out there, but I don't pick up absolutely everything.
No, I don't either.
I just dabble in that one.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how those that are the hardcore Black Series would feel about paying the extra for the extra heads and the extra hands. I still think they probably should include a little bit more in the pack than they do. Because again, going back to those first couple of waves of it, where you've got your Han Solo figure, for example, he came with a set of hands, a separate set of hands,
Yeah.
2 blasters, the Stormtrooper belt, all the extra bits and pieces all in one go. And then
Yeah.
you get other figures a little bit further down the line. It was just one weapon if you're lucky. So I kind of feel that they did promise the world and then kind of scaled back a bit from it. And maybe the Rebel Trooper is a little bit of a hint that actually they're pushing the boat out a little bit again on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Black Series. There's some standout figures in the line for me. I'm the same as you. I don't get every single one. You know, the Gamorrean Guard for me is amazing. The AT-AT Commander, General Veers, absolutely lovely figure. The facial likeness is unbelievable on that figure. So there is some that really do stick out. So I don't get them all. Just reading something there. Bricktop Vader. Yeah, mate. Read it the other day. The Archive Bossk is really well sculpted. Sorry, when I read that, I thought for some reason that was you were talking about a retro Bossk, which would have been amazing. You're talking about the Archive Bossk. Yeah, that's actually the Bossk that I've got, and it's pretty much identical in every way to the Blue Line release, but it's a great figure.
I think with all of the Bossk figures, even like going back to the Power of the Force 2 version, they've always had a decent sculpt for the time. It was like when it comes out, it's like, there you go. This is where they are. Their sculpting levels are at. So yeah, you've chosen a good character there, Tim, with Bossk. He's always added some decent figures as it goes along.
Yeah, well, the one that I use in all my videos, the Saga, vintage Saga. When did that come out? 2008?
2006.
2006.
Yeah. Oh, maybe 7, but yeah, certainly around that sort of time.
You know, quality figure.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Quality. So moving on to the retro line. I can't remember what your overall thoughts are on the original ones that came out last year. Last year. Do you like that line?
Not especially. I've got to be honest. To me, they look like bootleg figures. Because I do have a fair few of the original Kenner figures. So when you hold them next to each other, it does just look like they are a bootleg version of the original, which for me doesn't work. I appreciate you kind of have to have that different enough so that they're not going to be confused.
Yeah.
Side of things, but for me the simplest way to do that is to put a different date stamp on the back. Looking at the stuff that was shown at Toy Fair, I didn't think the eyes looked quite right at all. No. Certainly on the Han Solo Hoth figure. I don't like the fact that they've got the weathered look on the card backs. They should have come looking minty mint on the front. They're not for me. Especially when you can buy.
I get what you're saying about the bootleg. It's because for me, they look a bit softer in the, if that makes sense, in terms of the sculpt. They don't look as sharp. The detailings of the face, they just look a bit. I don't know how to explain it. They just don't look as sharp as the original. You know,
no.
The plastic's a bit softer, a bit smoother, if you like. I have to say, though, I do prefer the ESB wave to the first wave. I think they look better, and that weathered look, which I am most definitely not a fan of either. At least they're mixing it up a bit now, so the weathered look is different. They might have like 6 different ones or something that they rotate, so each figure looks a little bit different. But I don't really see the point in it, to be honest, because I can understand it's like, oh yeah, we're trying to mimic the fact that these figures have been in someone's loft for ages and they've been you know, you've got that weathered look on it. But then again, I've got plenty of friends that have got amazing collections with absolute mint examples, you know, so you don't need to do that.
No, and I think that's it. Most of the time, you'll if you do speak to a vintage collection, a vintage collector, they'll have a version of something, but once they've got everything, they'll be looking to get a better version of that and upgrade it to another one, sell that one on, get a new one, sell that one, and rotate until you've got the mintiest versions that you can get. So with this, I don't quite understand why it isn't just, well, mint out the gate. It's a brand new figure. It should be, for me.
Yeah. So this is what I wanted to come on to, because it's my understanding that Sam, I can't remember his surname, I do apologize, but a guy called Sam at Hasbro was like the lead design guy. And
Smith, I think it is.
Sam Smith, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah, not the singer.
No, very different.
Yeah, very different. So he apparently has been moved on. I don't think out of the company, but he's going to be working on something different within Hasbro. And as far as I understand it, he was responsible for the retro collection. It was like his sort of concept and his idea. And I know they've done it before and all that. They've tried to re-release figures in the Power of the Force 2 line, I think it was. They released like a 4-pack of the original figures. Collectors went mental about it, and then it kind of ended there. And it was his baby, as well as far as I'm aware, the carbonized figures in the Black Series. It's like his idea. So I'm just kind of wondering maybe where the focus of Hasbro is going to move to now that he's not in the picture. Are they going to? My hope is that the person that comes in thinks, I like 3.75. I like the vintage collection. Let's put some more money over there. I really do hope that, but it probably won't be like that, because I have a feeling that Hasbro kind of want us to collect the Black Series. That's just my sort of thing in my head, just purely by the figures that they release and the lack of vintage collection figures. But do you think the fact that this Sam guy is leaving and somebody else is going to come in is going to have any bearing on what we can expect in the future?
I think Sam seemed to have quite a bit of a say on what was going on at Hasbro. He kind of appeared shortly after Steve Evans left the brand. I mean, I was a big fan of what Steve was doing. Obviously, helped bring us the sail barge and what have you. So I think that there will be a bit of a change, but by the same token, the stuff that Sam is responsible for, by the sounds of it, are proving very popular for Hasbro. I mean, while I'm not a huge fan of the retro card backs, they've done incredibly well. The carbonized figures as well, people were going mad chasing those down. So it's difficult to say. It may well just be a case of whoever comes in goes, yep, that worked, let's just do it again on this figure instead. So who knows with that?
But the thing is with and I think I've mentioned this to you before, is that the carbonized figures for me, and this might be an unpopular thing what I'm going to say now, but for me, the carbonized figures, it's just like a bit of a money grab. That's what I think anyway, because you're just getting another figure that's like glittered up, in my opinion, and it's more about the box that they come in rather than the figure. Because if I want a set of figures on my shelf, then I want the best representation of that figure from what I'm watching. I don't want a different colored Sith Trooper that's a bit more glittery or whatever. And I just think it's more about look, and the same with those white first edition Black Series figures that they released on Triple Force Friday. It's like here's exactly the same figure, just in a white box, and there's only going to be a limited amount of these. So it's like feeding that secondary market as well, and it's just like grabbing money when they could be just saying, look, here's 10 different figures or 12 different figures, not here's 6 and 6 more exactly the same, just painted slightly different in a different box, because they just know collectors want them. Do you know what I mean? And it breaks my heart. It does.
It's following a lot of the Funko model. Here's the same figure, just spray painted 6 million different ways, and we'll sell it to you with a little different sticker on the window as well, just to be sure of it. Um, Again, it depends on how much of a completionist you are. If you're able to just buy what you like, which again I would strongly recommend, just buy what you like. You're able to avoid that sort of stuff, and again, vote with your wallet. But by the same token, there clearly was a lot of people out there that wanted those figures and were willing to track them down and go through it. The disco first order Sith Trooper or whatever it was, Jet Trooper, was not my cup of tea.
No.
But clearly there'll be people out there that do love that shiny look to their figures.
I find it bizarre, I really do. I'm just going to interrupt you there, Chris.
Sorry.
Shout out to Only One Kenobi. Thank you, mate, for the super chat. Good chat, fellas. Live streams the way in these uncertain lockdown times. 100%, mate. And I think you asked earlier what software I'm using. So I'm using StreamYard. So you need to get it, mate, and join us on one of these, most definitely.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to read out a few more of the comments here that we've got. So Delvian Seek often comments on my videos, so thank you very much, mate. He said Hasbro retro appears to be the way with Ghostbusters, G.I. Joe, and it's not for him. So I think it just in general, we live in the retro world at the moment, don't we? I think it's, the age group of those people are at a certain age now where they want to hit them with, this is what you used to have back in the day, and you're going to love it and you're going to buy it. And in the most part, it works. It certainly works with the vintage collection, because that half the reason I enjoy it is because it's what I used to buy when I was a kid, and it's like a continuation of that line with new modern figures inside the bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
The real Ghostbusters, G.I. Joe, if there's fans of those out there, you can definitely see what they're trying to do. And films rebooting, we live in that sort of world at the moment, don't we, where it's just reboots and retro.
It absolutely is. Touching on the Ghostbusters figures that a couple of people have mentioned in there, and yourself as well, I managed to pick up a Peter Venkman, a proper original one, a little while ago, and he's the only one I've got of the Ghostbusters line.
Yeah.
But again, seeing those as carded ones at Toy Fair, I was kind of like, oh, actually, yeah, I can see where the appeal is to that. And then I think as Ryan Bisey said on one of the other podcasts, actually that's exactly what they're doing with the retro line with the Star Wars figures on there, counting on people who aren't necessarily knee deep in the collecting like we are to go, oh, I remember having that as a kid. Yeah, I'll pick that up for a tenner, no problem. And I think, yes, they are showing up in Asda for $9.99, the first wave again. So if you missed those, do check those out if that's what you're into. Stormtrooper seems to be the one that disappears fastest.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are leaning quite heavily on that nostalgia kick. But again, kids aren't necessarily buying.
No, so it's us
action figures.
Buying it. Josh B says they have to keep the vintage collection. I'm 100% behind you on that, Josh. They really, really do, and they have to put more effort, as far as I'm concerned, in that line. Darth Rock 1, hello there, mate. Retro Ghostbusters look good. Remember having those. Harry Stokes, I want the Boba Fett carbonized, as I don't have the Black Series Boba. I'll take them out of the box. Couldn't care less about the Black Series box. So just on that, Harry, are you happy to have a Boba Fett that doesn't look like the Boba Fett? If you don't care about the package, are you happy that on your shelf is going to be a Boba Fett that's like a bit glittery? Because I think that's what the carbonized kind of does, doesn't it? It's like a glittery paint that's not screen accurate. Just putting it out there, if you're happy with that. I personally would rather have just a straight Boba Fett. Josh B agrees they're a money grab. Bradley Harvey, they'd be mad not to push out on with the vintage collection. And Colin Rusco Hawksworth, there was a comment there that I just wanted to read out. He mentioned about the guy being a massive Star Wars fan that's taken over at Hasbro. Is that correct? I'm just trying to find that comment now. There we go. I've read that the new guy at Hasbro is a serious Star Wars fan. Well, that definitely helps, doesn't it? I mean, I'm hoping that is the case. I'm hoping he's an old enough Star Wars fan that he appreciates, where we are and why we're here and where we've come from. The vintage figures, the vintage collection. If it wasn't for 3.75, then, all that's come after that would not be here if it wasn't for the success of the 3.75-inch action figure back in the late 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm. It's the history of the line. It's where it came from. I don't. I hope that it is somebody that's old enough to remember that. Like I say, Steve Evans used to buy and sell vintage Star Wars figures to get his way through university, way before he became lead of the Star Wars brand. So he clearly understood what Star Wars was about and understood the collecting side of things. So, which is why we got the return of the vintage collection. We got the katana, all these sorts of amazing bits and pieces within the 3.75 scale. So, yeah, I hope that whoever does come in does have that connection to Star Wars. That'd be amazing. We just have to wait and see, I think. And
so Harry Stokes has actually said, "Really, I didn't know that. I thought it was just a box that was different." So yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's like that. I personally think that those carbonized figures are aimed at inbox collectors. It's like, here's a different box that it's the same figure, painted slightly different, obviously, but it's about the box. It's about the packaging, which I always find weird with the Black Series personally, because I see a lot of people that collect them just have them in a row on their shelf with the numbers sticking out the side. It's like, yep, I've got 1 to 100. Now I'm not having a go at Black Series. I love some of the figures; they're great, but I just think it's a bit of a weird way to collect them. But yeah, the figure inside those carbonized is different, and I did hear that the carbonized Mandalorian, the paint, there was some paint issues with them. The paint rubbed off a little bit. It wasn't actually as good a quality as the actual proper red and black boxed Mandalorian. So, these are things that we got to think about.
Yeah, it was flaking off a little bit as well, wasn't it? On that side of things. So yeah, it is a different figure. If you count paint schemes as different things. If you want a Boba Fett, then you are probably looking at the archive line as the most recent one that's available for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
Has there been rumours that they're going to do one on the 40th anniversary card? Am I right in seeing that, or am I way off base?
I would imagine they would, wouldn't they?
It would make sense to. Obviously, they did the Kenner-inspired colours for.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great figure.
Convention exclusives. Yeah.
But he hasn't been announced in the first 2 waves, and we only had 2 waves last time, didn't we? So maybe they, if they were doing it, they were lining it up as another convention exclusive. Maybe, I don't know, like the Luke Skywalker pilot, which is worth God knows how much money now.
Yes, absolutely. So it could be another convention exclusive. Hopefully, they sense that actually he's a popular enough character and enough collectors still want to get hold of him that they'll do a mainline or a regular retail release for him. Again, it makes sense, but I think they're also starting a little bit earlier with the anniversary cards for Empire. So maybe they'll let it run a little bit longer than just the first couple of waves, because effectively that's what we got with Star Wars, wasn't it? It was the first 12 that came out on the Star Wars card. So possibly they might run longer. Yeah, there's a lot more Empire figures. So you might find that. I think Luke Hoth would look awesome in a 6-inch on that card back.
Yeah,
which we haven't seen.
No.
And I haven't heard anything that we will, but that would be a great one that I'd love them to get to if they went down that route. So we'll see.
Just quickly, just to change the subject quickly, because I want to read out Chris Rooks's comment here, and I know we touched on this earlier in the stream, but he says, "What do you think about Ahsoka being in the 2nd season of The Mandalorian and being played by Rosario Dawson?" So I have to admit that I didn't really know who Rosario Dawson was, and I saw a little bit of sort of negativity towards her on Twitter, or she's been in trouble with something in the past, or she said some weird comments, or I don't really know what it was, but people have asked me, what do you think about Rosario Dawson playing it? So is there a reason why we should be, is there a talking point around her in particular being cast in as Ahsoka Tano?
Not that I'm aware of. The closest that I could find was that I think at some point they were actually talking about, and this was years ago, they were talking about Ashley Eckstein, who was the voice of Ahsoka Tano, actually doing a live screen version of her.
Right.
And that's obviously not happening now. I personally don't have any problem.
I read something about, I don't know, something about she's made previous comments about transgender people or something. It could be absolute bull, but it was something that I read about that, and that's maybe the reason why people are maybe Chris can say in the comments why, if he knows why people are specifically saying, what do you think about X person playing that role, or is it as Chris says that we're expecting it to be Ashley? Let me know.
Otherwise, yeah, no problem. Some of the previous stuff that I've seen her in, she's been great. So from an acting chops point of view, absolutely no concerns there. Anything else, like I say, I'm not aware of.
There we go. Harry Stokes, he's just said, yeah, people are calling her transphobic. So I don't know whether that's why I'm being asked, what I think, because I has anyone ever seen her in anything else? I don't think I have. And if I did, if I have seen something that she's been in, I don't know. She's not famous enough for me to know, oh yeah, that's a person from that film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an odd one, and again, we don't know quite what the validity of the comments are. A lot of things can be manipulated to sound one way when it's been intended another. We'll have to see where it goes. What happens on that? But yeah, it's well, let that one fall out as it may, and just maybe actually step back and see what her performance is like before we try and judge it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the way. I never like it when people say, "Oh, they're doing this or doing that." Just wait until you see it, and then you can say what you like about it. We can't start slamming her already. When we don't even know what she's going to be like in the part. So, Darth Block One's saying Clerks 2. Oh, Clerks, man, what a film! I have seen Clerks 2, but Clerks 1 is just like the best, isn't it? What a quality film that is.
Absolutely.
Zeke says, not sure she's quite political. Her husband was running for US president at one point, I think. So here we go. Chris Rooks. Well, I've heard that Ashley will still be doing the voice. Rosario will just be the physical. She was Lieutenant Uhura, is that how you say that, in the new Star Trek movies. I've only seen the first new Star Trek, I think. Is she the in Star Trek? Does she wear the red uniform? Is she like on the bridge of the ship and she wears the red uniform? Is she like the love interest of is it Scotty or the Doctor? One of the two. I'm not a massive Trek fan.
I'm not certain that was the same person. I mean, just a quick look at her IMDb. Yep, Zombieland. She does a lot of voice work for various different bits and pieces. Where are we? Luke Cage, she was in quite recently.
So she's got a back catalogue of stuff. So
absolutely. And I think I'm trying to think. I
just think it's cool.
Sin City. That was the one.
A live action version of her. I think it's cool.
Absolutely, and it'd be interesting to see if Ashley is indeed doing the voice, because Ashley's voice is so much aligned with the portrayal of Ahsoka. It could sound quite jarring that it's not her voice coming out of the character, but interesting to see there, Chris, that they are looking at doing that. So yes,
the whole fact that for me, the Mandalorian, one of the good things about the Mandalorian for me is that it's not connected in any way in terms of like a main character. It's not connected to anything else that we've seen. Obviously, you've got stormtroopers, and obviously you've still got the Empire and all that kind of stuff. But there's nobody in it. I mean, the dark saber thing was a bit of a connection, which I quite liked. You know, and now they're bringing in a pretty big character from another property in to this. I mean, we'll have to see how that goes. You know.
It could go either way. I think it's one of those that I know some people have said, well, I've got no interest in The Mandalorian to begin with before they saw it, because well, there's no characters I care about. I don't know any of them. And then having watched it, it's actually I quite like these new characters. They're great.
Yeah.
Go from there. The introduction of main characters or well-known, well-established characters, I don't have a problem with, so long as there is a good reason for them being there. It's not just hey, I walked into a bar and there was Han Solo. There needs to be a bit more of a solid reason behind it, not just wouldn't it be cool if you know what I mean?
This is it. That's the dangerous ground. I don't want them to go. I don't really want them to go down that route personally. I mean, if she's like a cameo, I don't know. I haven't read too much about how much she is going to be involved. As I mentioned before, I was under the understanding that principal photography or whatever it's called, filming had been done and dusted, and they're going to start editing. So I'm not too sure how much she's going to be in it or whatever, but I want them to be really careful, because obviously they've created something very, very good that I love, and I don't want them to spoil it by trying to make it fit into this, that, and the other, because it stands very well by itself. Do you know what I mean?
I do, but I also think we do need to have a bit of faith in Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Dave Filoni has always known exactly what was going on in the old EU and was able to bring elements of that into the Clone Wars. He brought in characters like Chewbacca at the right time, and it fit. It worked within the series without ruining Chewbacca as a character. So with the people that are in charge of that show, I've got confidence that they would do it in the right way. Not too worried in them bringing in these big name characters. Without any problem. I think they'll be fine with it.
Yeah, because the whole thing that they call Baby Yoda, everyone knows that it's not Yoda, and
or is it?
Yeah, I love the fact that it's like nobody really knows the name of the species, and it, is that species, are all of them force sensitive? Are they a super rare species? There's not many of them around, and all of them are really, really powerful in the Force, or is it just the fact that this one happens to be as well? Do you know what I mean? I do like that about it, and I kind of don't want them to reveal too much more about it. Like, I don't want to see like hundreds of Yodas in a show. Do you know what I mean? I don't know about you, but I think that'd spoil it.
Yeah, the fact that there's only 3 that we've ever seen is probably enough.
Yeah.
I could stand to learn a little bit more, but I don't need to know everything. I think part of what's made Yoda such a character that has just gone on and on and on and been so interesting is that you don't really know a huge amount about him. We don't even know his species. We don't know his planet, where he was born, that sort of thing. So, yeah, keep some of the mystery. Keep some of the mystery, definitely.
Yeah. So, anyone in the chat there that has got any questions for myself or Chris about, I don't know, it could be about anything, about our favorite figures, what we think of this, what we think of that, anything you want to ask?
Just touching on Harry's comments there, is it a Yoda clone? It's a possibility. I was going to say my reading of the scene was that they wanted to try and clone what the child had.
Yeah.
Rather than that being a clone itself. But who knows? We'll see
that doctor wanted to do, find out a bit more about it, didn't he? I quite liked him as a character, so he'd make a good figure. I was watching the thing, he'd make a good figure.
Yeah, you're there mentally making a list, going, "Yep, Dr. Pershing, we'll have him," and you're the client, yeah, we'll have him, and yeah, so some definite
I
some
mean,
good
why don't we
characters.
just reel some more of them off? I mean, you got Moff Gideon. Yeah, we've got to have him, haven't we? Come on, he looks so cool.
Absolutely, and I mean the fact that he must be coming back for season 2, Hasbro have got to be all over that, going, "Yep, he's definitely going to be on the list. Just please make it 3.75."
I've heard that he uses the saber, the dark saber gets a bit more action, so he's definitely going to be in it, isn't he? He is the main baddie, and yeah, they always pick good baddies. I find it's in all of Star, apart from Hux.
Mhm.
Hands up, Hux was not very good, but they corrected that with Pride. So
Absolutely, and I didn't think Hux was that bad in the
but,
Force Awakens.
yeah,
But he became a bit too much of a joke in the next one for me. And then, obviously, like you say, Pride came in and rectified that side of things. But I think Kylo Ren was a good baddie. Certainly in the first one, for where a lot of the fears were. Young young people going a bit crazy and on the rampage. So it was a different kind of baddie to what we were used to within Star Wars.
yeah.
But,
They usually nail the baddies well, and yeah, he's definitely a character that we need in 3.75 inch. Just like the recent figure, I actually it arrived yesterday, which is Count Dooku in the 6 inch. So this is going back to the fact that I pick and choose my 6 inch figures, and he is definitely one. I don't know if you've seen it, but the facial sculpt on that Count Dooku is just incredible. They've done an amazing job.
yeah.
But again, it's just like I look at it and go, God, I wish this was 3.75. I know it sounds like I'm sort of broken record about that, but I do. I just wish it was a 3.75 because I personally just think they look a bit better. It's like the new Mandalorian figure. It looks better. The 3.75 inch looks better. I know that the 6 inch one might be better detailed or whatever, but in terms of just the scale, I sometimes think the 6 inch figures look a little bit bulky. Maybe, I don't know.
Potentially, I think they're good for different things. 3.75 is great for world building. You can do dioramas with loads of different figures, and you've got the space for that. But with the actual Black Series stuff, it's the action figure photography where you can take them outside and put them in different poses. You can get right up close with those and capture the detail. Pros and cons to both scales, I've got to say. So we'll see. Just on some of the questions there, I did see, where are we? Josh B, do you think they'll tie the Mandalorian in with the Rise of Skywalker?
Well, what connection could you get there?
For me
Is there
personally,
a connection that you could possibly do?
I mean, you could force any sort of connection in that, no pun intended. But for me, I think they will try and steer clear. Disney seem to be trying to distance themselves a little bit from the sequel trilogy stuff.
I think so too. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there. But for me, I don't see them trying to force a connection into it. You possibly get some backstory as to why Lando wasn't with the Resistance or the Rebellion, as to why that's in there, and you may come across him at some point. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Cheggy Chonk says, would you want to see builder droids in the Black Series similar to the Marvel Legends builder figures? I think that's a pretty good idea. I don't see why not. I mean, it's just something else that they could give us, you know.
It's a good chat.
I do like they're quite funny, those Marvel ones, actually, the way they've like stuffed in a massive head of some thing into the bubble. They do look quite funny, some of those.
It's an odd one. I think was it Patrick answer to one of the questions was that they probably weren't going to go down that route because you get the way that the Black Series are presented, you do get the one figure with their picture on it, and it's very much the packaging is around that character. That said, the Build-A-Droid line for me from the Legacy Collection was one of the, if not the best pack-in that Hasbro have ever done. They did some good stuff with the 30th anniversary collection, with like the bar pieces and the moisture evaporator and that sort of stuff. But the Build-A-Droid, the fact that you got a full figure by buying the entire wave, that was great. That was absolutely brilliant.
I would like them to do that sort of thing again. I mean, obviously, I'm of the opinion that if you're going to release a 3.75-inch super articulated figure, then ideally I'd want it on a vintage card. That's just that's my favorite line. But I do like the previous lines that we've had, the Legacy Collection, Saga Collection, where I wasn't too fond of those little holographic figures that you got with the Saga Collection. But if as you say, if they're going to give you little pieces of a figure, and all you have to do is buy the wave that you're going to buy anyway, and then you get another figure, then I'm all for that sort of thing. But primarily, I wouldn't want it wasted on a figure that should be on a vintage card. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the stream, didn't we? But Rancor Keeper, and if we look at the 3.75-inch Black Series line, there's quite a few figures in that line that basically is just a waste. Why aren't they on vintage? Why didn't they just? I know why they did it, because it came out at the same time as the 6-inch line. So it's like a thing across the spectrum of figures. You've got the Black Series 6-inch and the Black Series 3.75. But for me, they should just never have stopped the vintage collection. Just keep them on the vintage cards. Don't see why you'd want to do that personally. But
no, I know the reasons given at the time, and I can kind of understand it. The fact that the 3D movies were meant to come along and then they got cancelled after the first one was released kind of threw them a curveball as well. So maybe there was a bit of a rest at the time that was what the directive and the intention was. But there was also even the cheaper line, or the alternative to the vintage collection or the Black Series at the time, went straight down to 5 POA, and there was a massive drop in the quality of the paint operations as well at that time. So there was a lot of cutting back. The Black Series cards were much more simple than the vintage collection ones. Much more plain, basic, supposedly more collector oriented, but again, not as exciting on the shelf.
No, definitely not. Rusty Blades says Bib Fortuna in the vintage collection, hopefully in the next wave, Bradley, and he really wants Squid Head with Bib for his barge. Well, this is the thing, isn't it? It's like they gave us the barge, and they said, oh, that opened up the ability to release a load of more figures for the Return of the Jedi, and they gave us some odd choices because they repacked people like Vizam. Don't get me wrong, I loved that 3-pack. That was brilliant, but they have just missed some really core characters for the barge and for the Jabba's Palace playset they brought out. He's even on the box, Bib Fortuna.
Yeah.
It's like, why couldn't he have come in the box? But moving on to playsets, actually. So the carbon freezing playset, which will be announced at some point, we're definitely getting that this year. I do know for a fact that it's coming in again with 2 figures inside. And there's been some speculation about which 2 figures they're going to be. And I was following a thread of Yak Faces on, I think it's Twitter or maybe an Instagram, actually. And people were saying, oh, I hope it's this, I hope it's that. And I think some people, actually it's Facebook, sorry, it's Facebook. And he said, somebody said, oh, I think it's got to be an Ugnaught. And I think he said, no, it's not, because he says he's seen it. So
right.
He said, it's not an Ugnaught. Which is a bit of a shame, because I think if you think about the carbon freezing chamber, I think it's, if you're going to pick 2 figures that come out in it, it's got to be. I personally would want an Ugnaught in there.
If we take the Jabba's Palace one as an idea of where they might go from it, both the figures in that box were repacks.
Yeah.
So an Ugnaught from the Legacy Collection would have been a perfect candidate to put in there.
Yeah.
I'm hoping they don't just go with a Lando repack, because he's got the swivel arms. They need
Oh
updating.
no. They've got to redo that figure. They can't repack that.
I'd
I'm
hope not.
sure they wouldn't.
And in fairness, after the stuff that we saw Revan getting pulled from the wave,
Exactly. I think
I think they know that.
people would go mad if that happened. I think.
But
The torso goes green, doesn't it? It's not great plastic, and they'd have to massively improve that figure to release that one again, I think.
I think so.
One that I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago, actually, is that I'd love a Leia Bespin, the Bespin escape Leia. She's in that outfit there, isn't she? With her plaits and stuff.
That'd be a good shout.
We had in the Black Series, so
yeah,
that'd be a great choice.
Outside of that, I mean, if you're talking new figures, obviously you could get a Lobot in there. You could get what else? The new Lando, like you say. There's not a huge amount of characters. I'd imagine they might go for a Bespin security guard.
Yeah,
possibly with a new head. It's the Asian one that we haven't got yet in the vintage. Well, in the modern line.
Yeah, there was one in the Legacy Collection, though, right? I think.
We had oh crikey, Utrisum Tok, I think was his name. It was an alien one, yeah. That one, and we also had Sergeant Edion in the Legacy. So, and he was the black security guard. So we've had those two, but we haven't had the actual the one with the mustache from the Kenner line on a vintage card. So maybe him at some point. Yeah, well, I mean, there's plenty that could go in there. It's just what they'll do with it. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one, certainly, because I really did like that Jabba's Palace. I think it's great. It's a great idea. Play sets have got a big history in Star Wars toys, and
absolutely, and it's one of those. It's one of those that if you're packing it with a figure that people want, it should be selling. Just to pick up on some of the questions in there, the Gaming Greats question from, if you bear with me, Bricktop Vader. Gaming Greats, that's typically the Black Series side of things. Are you getting any of those? I've seen the Stormtrooper and obviously the Battle Droids.
I like the Shadow Trooper. I like the look of that one with the translucent limbs and stuff. I think his whole torso or lower torso, tummy area is completely translucent. So I like the look of him.
Are there any characters that you'd want to see?
Well, if I'm honest, it's been a long time since I played. I mean, I played Battlefront 2 and I've got the new Jedi Fallen Order game. But if you're talking about gaming greats, so they've got to look further back, I wouldn't be able to sort of just pick one out of thin air. But they're going down the route of troopers, aren't they? I do like the look of that blue and white trooper, the Stormtrooper Commander, is it? I think he's called. I do like the look of that, and I do like the look of the Shadow Trooper, and I like the Shadow Trooper in the Vintage Collection as well. That's again more of that for me.
I mean, if I really enjoyed the old Dark Forces, Jedi Knight Dark Forces games with Kyle Katarn. I really enjoyed those back in the day, so wouldn't mind seeing him made into a figure. Again, I'd probably only pick it up if it was 3.75. But beyond that, within the gaming side of things, it's I love Battlefront, love Battlefront 2. Quite enjoyed the Jedi Fallen Order as well. And I actually quite enjoyed, and I'm going to get a lot of stick for this, I'm sure, Masters of Terrace Kasai, the old PlayStation game from '96 or something like that, donkeys yonks ago. The Star Wars beat 'em up, but I can't see us ever getting an Arden Lynn figure, the woman with the metal fist from that. So yeah, no, I can't see anything on that. But yeah,
Gerard Coyle, hello mate, how are you? Good to see you in here, mate. He's put Wilro Hood for the Vintage Collection. I'm with you there, buddy. Let's get him.
Absolutely. He's a good figure, actually. He's one that's in the collection.
He's got the ice cream maker, hasn't he, from the Mandalorian? So
Absolutely. So it's got a completely different purpose now. That
yeah,
has. So yeah, but it's. I don't think they'll have another go at him on a vintage card. I'm afraid he really is one that you're going to have to bite the bullet on the secondary market prices for that one. But good luck with that one, certainly. Oh yeah, sorry, one of the comments just there. Star Killer as a figure, I absolutely would buy Star Killer uh, on as a Black Series figure,
I mean, great.
one with all the wraps around him and everything, or the one that was that they released as a vintage collection figure. Absolutely would buy that as a 6-inch figure. He's a fantastic character. So Chris Rook's great shout on that one.
Yeah, and the Jedi Revan, the sort of the goody Jedi Revan. Yeah, he's in what color robes? Like beige robes, isn't he? That's a good looking figure.
Absolutely. So there's plenty of scope for them to do it. I don't know if they will dig that far into the old stuff, or whether they are just going to lean a little bit more heavily on the stuff that's now new canon. So your Battlefront 2, your Jedi Fallen Order stuff, and whatever else they have coming down the road. Did I see something about a Bounty Hunter 2 game coming out?
What, somebody mentioned it in the comments, or?
No, I think I stumbled across it somewhere else,
Right.
and the main character was going to be Bossk, I believe.
Well,
So
I'm in.
I don't know enough about it. I'm not a huge gamer, but I think I think I saw something around Bossk being a Bounty Hunter 2 thing. I'll have to do some research afterwards and have a look.
Bossk in Battlefront 2 looks great. I love playing as him. He's really good.
Good fun.
Something about the Gaming Greats actually that I was thinking is that they're GameStop exclusives, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I heard that GameStops are closing because of the whole thing that we don't like to talk about, the CV. Sorry.
Not VC. That's different. That's what we collect.
Yeah. Maybe they're putting in that actually. But yeah, so a lot of people are saying that they're going to struggle because they're just one of these. You go into a GameStop, often not many people in there anyway. Do they do? Is it a bit like one of our sort of secondhand game shops over here? Do they do like sort of secondary market games? Is that what GameStop's for? Is it like a game exchange place? They probably sell new stuff as well, right? But is it predominantly like a CEX exchange or whatever we have over here?
I think we've got game stores rather than GameStop. I think they're very similar to that. It's the US equivalent of that. So I think they do predominantly new stuff, but they have some stuff that's pre-owned that you can buy on that as well. But the majority of the stuff is new stuff as it comes out.
Because that would be interesting, wouldn't it, to see the whole sort of future of that? Because obviously, what I did hear is that those are quite successful. People, the response to those was really, really good, and it's a GameStop exclusive. And what would happen if GameStop would then, go under? Fingers crossed they don't, but you never know what's going to happen in this world at the moment. What would actually happen to that? Would the plans that they had for that, would they try and get with like a bigger company maybe? I don't know. It'd be a shame, wouldn't it?
It would be a massive shame. I think it's one of those that we have no idea what the future landscape is going to look like on that side of things. But Hasbro have always said that they'll talk to their retail partners, their exclusive providers, to see what they want. So being computer-based game shops, they're prime placed for selling these computer game-based characters.
Yeah.
So I don't know who else would step up. I mean, certainly in the UK, we haven't got a huge amount in that field already. I can't see, like you say, CEX selling something like that as a brand new thing. I don't really know what they've got in the US in terms of stores that would do something different on that.
No,
So
it's a shame, isn't it?
if they went under, yeah, it possibly would be a case if that's the end of the game-based specific characters as an exclusive. You might get the odd one sneak into a mainline wave, but that's about it.
Yeah. We've got a good question from Harry Stokes here, actually. He says, what do you guys think about the High Republic? So I'll quickly just touch on what I know about it. So as far as I'm aware, it's a series of books and comics at the moment, right? Is that right? Because I saw also something about the ex-actress is going to be cast for the main Jedi-looking, the blonde Jedi lady from the cover of one of the books, maybe I think it is. But as far as I'm aware, at the moment, is it just books and comics?
It is books and comics. I think my read of it was that this is probably what the Benioff and Weiss thing was going to be.
Right.
You don't really. I can't imagine you've got Doug Chang doing concept art for a book and comic series, because he's the guy that does the concept art for the films and what have you. So I imagine it was a case of, right, Doug, you're doing this for Benioff and Weiss. No, wait, we're changing tack. We'll just take what you've got there and move it over to this new publishing thing instead. Again, similar, supposed to be something similar to Shadows of the Empire, but without a movie.
Yeah, because Harry's put there, do you think Disney is turning Star Wars into an MCU type thing? And I mean, obviously that was a huge success for them, wasn't it? I'm not sure if it worked particularly with Star Wars, especially as, I mean, for me, I'm not a massive fan of everything being interlinked. Nothing, you know, everything doesn't have to make sense for me in Star Wars. It doesn't have to have a meaning. And I would remember, and a lot of the stuff that you know about Star Wars is in a comic or a book, and you only to know that part of it, you have to have read the comic or the book. And there's loads of books that I haven't read in the new canon and the old canon. There's loads of them. So there's loads and loads of stuff about Star Wars that I do not know, and there's loads of channels out there that solely focus on that kind of expanded universe of Star Wars and are serious experts in it. But it's not really my thing. I've got a lot of the comics. I do admit I read some of the comics. Dr. Aphra, for example, is a good one. But in terms of all the new stuff, I mean, if they're going to do a whole MCU thing, does that mean it's all going to be around this new age, 200 years of whenever it was or whatever?
But potentially, I mean, for me, anything that's like a film or a TV show needs to be able to stand on its own. So whatever you're saying within that show, it needs to be able to be explained by the characters or from what you see in front of you. I think the books should be there to provide some supplemental information and, I can see how that guy got there, but it shouldn't be a glaring, well, hang about. You shouldn't be taken out of the film going, well, hang about, how is he there now? That doesn't make sense. But if it's something that can be fed in the background in the book, perfect. That's great. That's what a lot of like all of the characters in the cantina of A New Hope, all of them have backstories, and all of them were given backstories in the old EU.
Yeah.
But you didn't need to know that the first time you watched Star Wars.
No.
And you didn't need to know why Han Solo was in that bar. It was explained, we'll find a pilot here that can get us to wherever we need to go.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was all you needed. So that's a perfect example of what a film needs to do as far as in terms of explanation.
And the MCU films do that. They do stand on their own. And then you get that little tidbit at the end, don't you, which is basically like a prelude of what's to come in the next film.
Yeah.
I found that I sort of kept up with it for the first maybe 5 or 6 films, and then by the time sort of Ant-Man and the Wasp came out, it really didn't matter to me which order I was watching them, and I'd probably actually lost which order they were in. It was only really sort of the actual proper Avengers films where I was really sort of like, right, I need to know, Infinity Wars, then Endgame. But does it matter if I watch Captain Marvel in between? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? Or after, does it come? I don't know what order they came in, but I could enjoy Infinity Wars and Endgame without having to see those others. So
Yeah.
will the High Republic be this whole thing where we get like 9, 12 films or TV shows that are all set in that that sort of year or timeline, but are about different characters? Because the way I read it was about talking about these Jedis that are on the outer rim in different places, guarding the galaxy and enforcing the law or whatever they're doing. So they could potentially just have X story over there and Y story over here, and be done with it. It doesn't necessarily need to interlock. I think what Harry's saying is that basically, are we expecting all of the new media that's going to come from now on after Mandalorian or whatever to be in and around that time zone, if you like?
Mm.
I hope not.
No, possibly. I think if they stick with just books and comics, then yes, they'll probably be very much interlinked, so that the reader will follow it through from the start to the end, and that's what they'll get. The reason Marvel can do it in the MCU is comic books have been around for donkey's yonks. Even if you only have a fleeting knowledge of it, you know who Spider-Man is. You've got a rough idea who Iron Man is through your subconsciously what you pick up. You know who Hulk, the Incredible Hulk, is. So you've got touch points that you can instantly grab hold of. With the High Republic, we don't know who any of these characters are.
Yeah, they're all new.
And to sell it to a new audience, I think that's going to be a difficult thing to do as a film or a regular series. But as books or comics, I think that you could do that, because you've bought in at the price of entry of that first book, and you'll follow it through the series.
Yeah.
So it depends on how big they want to make it, basically, for me.
I mean, Harry's just put there, I don't know why they just didn't do the Old Republic. And for me, this is their Old Republic. It's not, obviously it's not the same timeline, but
No.
they just want to do something different, don't they? They don't want to just go, oh, we've already got loads and loads of stories from the EU. This is what everybody knows, and we're just going to give you that. They want to create something completely new in a different time zone. So for me, it is kind of Disney's Old Republic, but not the Old Republic, if you get what I mean.
Absolutely. And I think you've said it exactly there. They've got rid of a lot of the old EU stuff, the Old Republic, and it's kind of burnt them with the films, because they've taken a lot of flack from old fans for going, well, that's not how that character would have behaved, because we know that character. So, like you say, if they're creating their own stuff from scratch, they can effectively take them where they want them, without having to fit it in between all the other stuff that we know happened previously.
Yeah,
they're building their own, and I think they would have been absolutely fine with a sequel trilogy without any bumps along the way, if they'd have had one overarching story that somebody was going, right, well, I'm telling this story, this is what's happening here, here, and here, rather than passing the baton between each director. So
I mean, Delvian's put their they'll pick and choose elements from the old EU. 100% they will. Yeah. It's just a massive thing of information and stories and characters that they can just go, right, we'll just have him. I mean, you can't tell me that Kylo Ren isn't kind of based off of Revan, is it? I mean, it's, they've looked at that, haven't they? They've gone, right, here's a bit of concept art around him. Let's just make him look a little bit different. We like his mask and whatever. I'm not saying the character, but just the look of him. They can just go back and pick whatever they like, because that's what they did. They reset the canon, didn't they? So they reset it, but they'll always delve into it for ideas.
Absolutely, and let's be honest, George Lucas was no stranger to that. I mean, Ayla Secura got plucked from the comics and brought into the films because he liked the look of that character.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any problem with that. Obviously, they own all of the old expanded universe stuff as well, so they can do that. Dave Filoni used to pull things in from the expanded universe to put into the Clone Wars where it fit.
Yeah.
And I think that is the key. So long as it fits and it works, great, no problem.
Yeah,
absolutely no problem at all.
Thrawn as Delvian there says, and Harry says, yeah, I read the Thrawn trilogy, years ago, and I think I actually picked up the first of the three, maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's a great set of books, and
Absolutely.
Thrawn's a great character, and again, one we need, should I say it, in the vintage collection.
Well, yeah, possibly. I know for me, the best version of Thrawn so far is the Legacy collection version that came in the comic pack.
Yeah.
Possibly a little short compared to how he was portrayed in Rebels. So yeah, probably do need an all new sculpt of that if that were to come around again. I don't think he's going to be a priority on a vintage card
No,
for Hasbro, unless he comes back in some major way. Well, if Ahsoka's coming back and she was last seen in Rebels, maybe Thrawn will in Mandalorian as well. Who knows?
yeah, well, this is it. Yeah,
So maybe
it
he,
up, isn't it?
yeah, maybe just by that alone, he instantly becomes essential to a vintage card back. But we, at the moment, I can't see it being a priority. Although, just touching on Bricktop Vader's comment, thank you for enjoying this rather than an audiobook whilst painting a custom. But the audiobooks of the Heir to the Jedi, Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and The Last Command, the Thrawn trilogy, are well worth listening to if you haven't heard those.
The audiobook versions, is there?
Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Right.
And I mean, obviously they're well old now, but well worth listening to.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I might have to get on those actually.
Yeah,
Could do with a recap of those.
yeah.
Save me having to read it.
No time for reading. No time.
No, but yeah, you could just listen to it. Can you just sit in there, be quite whilst painting a custom figure, as
Exactly.
Bricktop Vader says. Yeah. David Sutherland, how are you, mate? Thank you very much for the super chat. Good to see you here. I'm not sure how long you've been in the stream. We've been on it quite a while.
Crikey, yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I didn't actually notice the time. We've been discussing a lot. I'm not too sure how much longer we're going to be going on. I don't know what your plans are, Chris, but
I've got a little bit long.
Just go through a few more of the comments, talk about a few more things, and then we'll maybe start to wrap it up a little bit.
Okay.
Let's have a look. Bricktop Vader R-rated and 9-star Darth Bane movies would be my personal choice.
It'd be different. I think I don't know if Disney are brave enough to go down that route. I've got to be honest.
No.
As cool as that Vader scene in Rogue One was amazing.
I think that's as bad as you're going to get it.
Yeah, that's probably as lethal as it will be. But there has been some amazing anime stuff. Have you ever seen that TIE Fighter anime short? And it's a squadron of 3 TIE Fighter pilots, an interceptor, a normal TIE Fighter, and a TIE bomber.
Right.
Just a completely fan-made anime-style animation. Absolutely brilliant. Well worth watch. I'll see if I can drop a link into the comments a bit later on that one. But it's a style that does lend itself quite well to Star Wars. So it would certainly be an interesting one to see.
Good
shout.
The film Logan, is that part of officially part of the MCU?
I don't.
Is it Disney? Is it a Disney film? It's Marvel, isn't it?
I think the X-Men are still slightly separate from the MCU.
I'm no expert on it, but I have seen Logan, and it, if you could have a Star Wars film like that, it would never happen, But if you could, then, it would be pretty cool. But I think Star Wars has always got to be for the whole family, Yeah,
well, I think bizarrely that Disney Plus actually opens it up to being a bit more than that. I think you could possibly get away with a Death Troopers style short mini series or something on Disney Plus.
Right.
You stick it on the adult side of things. and maybe do it down that route. Are you familiar with Death Troopers, the books?
Oh no. I thought you were talking about the Death Troopers in The Mandalorian.
Of course, yeah. No, Death Troopers was a series of books. It was like a horror style where stormtroopers had turned into zombies.
Oh yeah, I've seen the sort of models and statues of them. Yeah, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean now. Yeah.
So I think there's some potential that they could do something along those lines on the Disney Plus platform. Again, whether they're brave enough to, I don't know. There was certainly, I think there was certainly a lot of interest in those books at the time, so it might be something they go into.
Right. So Harry and Chris have just guys. I'm no expert with the MCU. It's not really my bag. I like some of them, but I saw Logan. I thought that was great, and they're saying that it isn't part of the MCU and it was still under Fox Studios, but that they are getting the X-Men now, aren't they? Haven't they got that license now? Disney bought Fox, right?
They did buy Fox, so yes, that would make sense. It's whether Sony still have any say. I know Sony has Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Chris. It's whether they bring the X-Men into the current iteration of the MCU, or whether they try and do something different again. And apparently Logan will be coming to the MCU, so yes, good news for all you Marvel fans out there.
All right. Okay. Right then, guys, before we wrap this up, whoever is left in the chat, why don't you just put your number one wanted figure for this year, one that hasn't already been announced or that's rumored to be. Just want to know your number one most wanted, could be Black Series or Vintage Collection. What character do you want them to make this year? Let's put it in the comments below, and then we can. I mean, Hasbro aren't going to watch this, but let's see what you think. Greedo 6-inch, okay.
Everybody at Hasbro, hope you're enjoying this. Yeah.
Hammerhead Vintage Collection. Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. He'd be right up there on my list.
Absolutely.
The Star Droid, Gerard.
Yeah, Harry, the Greedo 6-inch. They have done one back in 2013. Decent figure, although I think the head was slightly off.
Yeah.
Worth checking out anyway if you're interested in that one.
Queel, 100%. Chris Root, Star Killer. So, for the Black Series, yeah, okay.
Good shout.
Bib Fortuna, Uncle Owen.
Grumpy old Uncle Owen. Yeah, it's. I think the Bib Fortuna is one that does need updating, definitely. So yeah, we'll see where that one goes. Hopefully they'll get to it.
Commander Bakara Vintage Collection and 6-inch Yaddle. That's a new one. Tessek Vintage Collection. So that's Squid Head, right? I'm old school. He's Squid Head, yeah.
Yeah, that's him.
I would want Squid Head on the name pill as well.
I think you're reaching there, mate. Given that Ponda Baba,
it would say underneath in brackets as long as they do that.
Okay, all right. You'll settle for that.
Yeah.
Kira, is that in Vintage Collection? I take it, or Nathan? We'll have to see.
I would love when she steps out the Falcon in Kessel in that outfit with the cape.
Yep,
would make a beautiful figure.
Absolutely. Still so much to get from Solo, isn't there? I'd love a dried boss figure for me.
I'm literally working on a video about Solo, about my I don't know whether to do top 5 or top 10. It would probably end up having to be top 10 because there is so many. So I'm not going to ruin that video for the people that are watching this video. But I'll put a few in there. Like you're talking about Han Solo in Mud Trooper outfit, right? Because even in the 5 POA figure, that was a great figure. So get him in a vintage card. Super articulated.
Absolutely. There's so many. Like you said, I mean, you could probably do a top 5 just the Han Solo outfits from that one.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think you're gonna have to do a top 10 on that, mate. Sorry.
yeah.
Get busy.
Patrol trooper. He's in
Absolutely.
it for like 2 seconds and gets caned on his speeder bike, but I'd still want him as a vintage figure, you know.
Absolutely. So, oh, crikey, Rancor Keeper and a Rancor in Black Series. Wow. Did they do a 6-inch scale Rancor for one of the cons, one of the conventions?
There is a Black Series boxed version of the Rancor, I'm pretty sure.
In the 6-inch scale? Because I think they did one for the convention, but it was just for a display. It wasn't a.
Oh yes, no, yes, it wasn't something that we're going to release. It was just a thing that they'd mocked up.
Absolutely huge.
For something, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, they did I want to say there was a 3.75-inch version of the Rancor that came with a Gamorrean guard and whatever. Was that an exclusive?
I think it might have been. It had
The
the
black
Jabba's
box,
throne. Yeah, Jabba's throne and Jabba and a 3PO with it and a Luke and a Leia. It was quite a decent set as far as I know. I don't think it came over here, over to the UK. At least not unless it was a specialist shop. It's quite a difficult one to get.
Yeah.
But,
so we've got Grandpa Palpatine, Black Series Darth Bane, Moff Gideon with Dark Saber. And there we go. Right then, guys. Thank you very much for joining in on the stream. It's been brilliant. We've been on nearly 2 hours. Have we?
Yep. Just about.
It's gone very, very quickly. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone, for sticking around and contributing in the chat and what have you. Definitely going to do this again. Hopefully, get more guests on. Can't just be me and Chris. We'll get Only-One Kenobi in here. We'll get Usual Mike on here. All the other YouTube channels that I'm sure you guys watch. We'll try and do something else another time. Now I've got this software sorted out, StreamYard. It's pretty decent tool for doing it. So thank you guys for checking it out. And do you want to say a quick goodbye, Chris?
Yeah, just to copy what you've said. Thanks ever so much for joining us this evening, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it and look forward to the next one.
Cool then, guys. All right then, guys. See you on the next one, guys. See you later.